Hey guys, what's up? Jeff is back, and I've got something that I haven't shown you guys in quite a while now. I've got MyTeam gameplay. And the reason that I haven't shown you that in a while is I've been really focusing on preparing for league races and specifically preparing for league races with no assists, which requires a little more preparation than probably I did previously for league races when I had specifically the racing line. I didn't need to learn all the breaking points and I didn't need to spend as much time as I do now just trying to get accustomed to these tracks and learning new tracks and getting reaccustomed to old tracks. So I've been focusing on that a lot more recently and haven't honestly played my team much. And I think part of that was the fact that the AI has been pretty OP in a straight line, and so I've been trying to stay away from it a bit just because it was pretty miserable. I remember thinking back specifically to Jeddah, those guys would just there were a couple spots that with straights where they just were they're so good at exiting corners at such high speeds, and it's so easy for them to catch you, and so it puts you in a position where you're sort of a foot down or a leg down. How do you say that? A leg down, I think is what I'm looking for. So I just maybe didn't have the urge to play a lot of my team recently. But I did get the urge last night to try some my team. And what I did first was Imola. And you're going to say, well, Jeff, this isn't Imola, this is Miami. Well, the reason is I practiced for Imola. I learned the breaking points. I'd never done it with no racing lines, so I had to do a little bit of practice. And actually, side note, it's quite a bit of fun on F122. I thought it was a miserable track on 2021, but on F122, I think it's a really fun track, Imola, and it's a lot of fun to drive. So I did a little preparation. It's a sprint weekend, so I go into the sprint and I get a terrible start and just fall down the grid. I think it was P22 after the first lap, and then got a mechanical DNF. And I said, okay, well, here's an opportunity to go from the back in the race. And within 10 laps, I think, mechanical DNF in the race. So it would have been a miserable video. I recorded it but deleted it afterwards just because it was pretty miserable. So you're not seeing that. So we're on to Miami. The good news for Miami is that I recently prepared for a league race here, and I'd never driven the track before then. So I learned all the breaking points. I figured out the track and ended up feeling pretty good at Miami, I would say. So the timing worked out nicely that it was the next track in this my team save, and so I just jumped right in after Imola didn't work out and raced at Miami, and that's what you're seeing here. And I didn't really say anything about the qualifying while it was happening, but ended up P3 in qualifying. My third lap, I think maybe there was more time to be had. My second lap was pretty good. Third lap, there was probably a little more time to be had, but I don't know that I was close enough to really go for a front row spot, but I was hoping that maybe they would take a grid penalty for engines or something, but they didn't do it. So we're starting P3, and you can see that the predicted pit stop strategy, first of all, is a two-stop, soft, medium. You may have also seen when I set my strategy that I'm planning to go one stop, soft to medium, and that's one thing I have noticed in my team is that I don't know if it's upgrades on the car or the AI is just maybe unnecessarily conservative, but I think it can be done on a one stop pretty easily, honestly. And Imola, the suggested strat for me was soft, medium, soft, I think. And I would have done that if I hadn't DNF'd from a mechanical issue, but I did mechanical DNF, so it's irrelevant now. You see me there get a decent start off the line, which honestly for me, that is probably about the best start that I've ever had. Ran right into Sergio Perez. Sorry about that. Luckily, don't think I got any damage there. Didn't have the little damage screen pop up, so I was okay there, but I was a bit worried about it. And that is probably the start of what you'll see more of in this video, just the AI sort of shutting the door, honestly. I think maybe I felt like he was going to give me a little more room there because I think if I was in that position and I'm racing in a league race with other people, I probably would have given myself the room just because the last thing I want to do is get T-boned by someone else. But the AI doesn't really think like that. And there's probably an argument that it wasn't my corner to begin with, so he was well within his rights to cut me off. But also, you got to think, hey, I don't want to get hit. And we did make contact. I'm thinking he didn't get any damage from it. He didn't seem to get any damage from it. So all's well that ends well, I guess. But that is strike one against the AI in this race, if you will. Maybe a strike against me also. But I don't keep count of strikes against myself against AI. I only keep count of the strikes that they earned. So it's sort of irrelevant, I think. You may have just seen fastest lap pop up at the top. Carlos Sainz. It said that he had an 18-second fastest lap. I don't really know what that means. There appears to be some sort of glitch happening here. It's the first time I've seen it, honestly, so I have no idea why this is happening. You see me get a decent little run here on Perez. I brake a little bit late, but I'm able to stay out in front of him, and I'm scraping the wall almost here on the inside. But I do keep Perez behind me, luckily, and I'm able to stay ahead. But I think it's going to be a real challenge to stay ahead of him. I have been fine-tuning the AI a bit, and I think it's at a pretty good place, but I think maybe it's still a click or two too high. So I think I might drop this down maybe 1 point for the next race and see how that does. But I do think that they just had a slight pace advantage over me that they shouldn't have, because I'm currently the best car on the grid. And if I'm making mistakes, that's fine. I should pay for those. But when I'm driving well, it seems somewhat ridiculous that they can just gap me pretty easily. Some cars, at least. I went way deep there. And Perez, again, is so very close, but he backs out when I think he realizes that there's no room to be had. And I'm, again, almost scraping the wall here. And we're only on lap 4, and we've had a lot of back and forth, Perez and myself. So let's hope for a long race of battling. I do think we're on different strategies, so we're probably not going to get this battle for the whole race. But it could be interesting to see if we come together sort of in the last stints. And I think the same thing with Verstappen. They both started on the mediums. You would expect those guys are going to go long, whereas I'm going to be pitting pretty early and go from soft to mediums. So I should be off these softs pretty quickly, and then we'll be on completely different strategies. And I don't know that we're going to see each other on track until our strategies converge at the end of the race. You see me get by Perez again, and I'm kind of thinking that this might be my chance to actually stay ahead. So you see me hit the battery out of that turn, and this is probably the biggest gap I've had on him going into this long straight in the last couple laps, because we've had 2 or 3 times here where I've gotten past on this long straight, and this is finally the opportunity for me to stay ahead. I had to use a lot of battery to do it, but I think it's worth it, especially because I think in Sector 1 I can gap him pretty well. So I was able to get a little lead out in front of him and then catch up to Verstappen as well. And almost a mirror image of what we had earlier with Perez twice, I think. Basically, it's a switchback by the Red Bull, and I'm able to stay ahead, just sort of scraping the wall on the inside, and they back out when they realize there's no room. The difference in this situation versus the last one with Perez is Verstappen's probably going to get through here. And you can't see it on screen anywhere, but I'm actually pitting this lap. A couple of the soft runners have already pitted. You see Leclerc and Sainz back there in P4 and P5. They're very clearly going to stay ahead of me. They're 13 and 15 seconds behind, respectively, and it's going to take me longer than that to pit. I do get the optimal pit stop, the purple. I come out of the pits on the mediums, and it looks like I'm going to be P6 with a decent little gap over Hamilton, around 5 seconds, 5.5 seconds. But he is on the softs, so we'll see if he can gap me a bit. Fast forward, I'm catching up with Valtteri, and I do get a nice little run on him here. He almost squeezes me into the wall, but fortunately, we don't make any contact. I don't hit a wall. I'm able to get in front of him, and we don't have any of the switchback activity from the AI there, which is nice. But we're only 19 laps in, and this has been one of the more frenetic races that I've seen. No safety cars at all in this save yet. And literally, I go and check every race after the race. I check the settings to see if safety cars are on because I haven't gotten anything. And I almost wonder if it's a damage thing, just because you see me make contact with a couple guys and not get any damage. Well, you saw me make contact with Perez, and I also got rear-ended on the first lap by Hamilton, I think. And then you see Bottas there just sort of all up in my gearbox and just sort of hitting me around a little bit. And it appears that neither of us got damaged, but it was a little bit of an aggressive move, I would say, by him. So strike 2 against the AI in this race there. But Hamilton and Bottas apparently got into a little bit of a scrap there, and it cost them both a whole lot of time. And then you see strike 3 against the AI. Charles Leclerc left me absolutely no room at all. And was it a bit of a dive bomb? Maybe, but if you've watched my videos, you know that I do sort of take advantage of the AI a little bit. I bully the AI, and I tried to bully the AI there, and they were having none of it. And frankly, I was very lucky to get off with no damage and no spin or anything like that. And I did have a little bit of a wobble. Probably cost me 2 seconds, which in the grand scheme of things, I don't think is going to make a difference, which you can see if you just watch this video. But Perez now is on his second stint. He's going to go soft or medium soft it seems, and he came out of the pits. I just showed you a couple seconds behind me, but he very, very, very quickly passed me. It was not even difficult for him. But in a stroke of massive fortune for Starlux E-Racing and Jeff Skywalker, you see Perez gets the DNF. He is out of the session. So I am absolutely gifted P4 right there. And it's looking, unless I can gap Verstappen a bit, it's looking like I'm going to get P4. I'm not going to be able to move up any beyond that. But we're absolutely going to do what we can and try to get a good result here. But fast forward now to Verstappen going on to his second and final set of softs. He comes out of the pits 7 seconds ahead of me. He is on brand new softs. There is absolutely no way I'm going to be able to catch that guy. So sayonara and goodbye. You now see going into lap 57. I don't know if I saw anybody on track except for a couple lap cars in the interim since the last time you saw me. Hamilton has gained a little bit of time. His mediums are a little newer than mine are, and you may have seen I just put down the tire wear screen, but I was around 55% on all the mediums, and that's something like 43, 44 laps on the mediums. So I don't know if that's tire wear upgrades or I'm just built different. I'm just the tire whisperer. I don't know what the case is, but I was really able to make this one-stop work, and I don't think that I really could have done any better than this, given the circumstances that surrounded me in this race. If I'd been lucky enough to get some sort of late safety car or something, I don't know, maybe I could have capitalized on that depending on when the timing was. But Carlos Sainz gets the win. It's looking very much like I'm going to come home in P4. And honestly, I think that this has probably been my best race since I stopped using assists. I mean, you've watched some of the league videos. If you've watched some of the league videos, you know that I've struggled a little bit, especially with pace. I think that obviously the AI, you can tweak the level, and so I'm not as exposed, and they're more my pace. But also, I just think pure consistency. You know, I think I might have used one flashback in this race, and I'm not making excuses here, but it wasn't even my fault. I lapped Latifi, and he sort of just decided that he was going to respect the blue flags and then decided that he wasn't going to respect the blue flags, and he made contact with me, and it would have ruined my race. So I did flashback that, and I'm not sorry. But other than that, I don't think I used any flashbacks. And to me, that's a really successful race against the AI with no assists. I mean, no spins. I had a couple wobbles. You saw the incident with Leclerc, and I had a couple moments as well that cost me maybe half a second or a second per incident. But overall, really successful race. I was really happy with P4. Did much better than my teammates and got some nice points and built some nice confidence. So I'm excited to see where we can go from here, both in league racing and my team videos. But keep looking out for more because I guarantee there will be more.